What if I told you that the people who seem to command a room without saying a word, who draw others in like a gravitational force, aren't using magic? They aren't following pickup artist tricks or superficial social hacks. They are simply practicing a level of self-mastery that the rest of the world has forgotten. Most people spend their entire lives chasing approval, chasing attention, chasing connections, only to find that the more they reach out, the more people pull away. It is the ultimate irony of human nature. The harder you try to be liked, the more invisible you become. But there is a different way. The ancient Stoics knew that influence isn't something you take, it's something you emanate. It is a byproduct of being a person of substance, a person who is anchored, calm, and entirely in control of their own internal world. In this video, we are going to explore 17 tiny, almost invisible habits that will shift your energy. These habits don't require you to be the loudest person in the room or the one with the most money. They require you to be the most disciplined. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why some people seem to have an unfair advantage in life and how you can develop that same unshakable magnetic presence. If you are tired of feeling ignored and you are ready to command the respect you deserve, keep watching. This is your turning point. The first, and perhaps most powerful habit, is the art of the controlled pause. In a world of instant gratification, where everyone is rushing to be heard, being the person who takes a second to breathe before speaking is a massive display of power. Most people live in a state of constant, reflexive reaction. If someone insults them, they snap back. If someone asks a question, they fill the silence immediately because they fear the discomfort of the empty space. They treat their words as if they are cheap, leaking them at every opportunity to prove they are present. But consider the nature of value. Gold is valuable because it is scarce. If gold were as common as dirt, no one would care about it. Your words are no different. When you rush to reply, when you interject to show you have an opinion on everything, you are signaling to the world that your thoughts are cheap and that your internal state is easily disrupted by external stimuli. When you implement the controlled pause, you are doing something revolutionary. You are creating a gap between the event and your response. In that gap, you reclaim your sovereignty. When someone talks to you, don't answer immediately. Take a breath. Look them in the eye. Let the silence hang there for a second or two. This small, tiny habit does three things instantly. First, it forces the other person to be the one who feels the pressure of the silence, not you. Second, it shows that you are not desperate for their approval or anxious to fill the air. Third, it allows you to choose a response that is measured, intelligent, and grounded in truth, rather than an emotional reaction that you might regret 5 minutes later. People are naturally drawn to those who seem unshakable. When you pause, you are demonstrating that you are not at the mercy of the situation. You are the architect of your own temperament. You will notice that as soon as you start doing this, the dynamic changes. People will stop trying to provoke you because they realize you cannot be easily rattled. They will listen more closely when you finally do speak, because they know that if you have taken the time to share your thoughts, those thoughts must be worth hearing. You are training the world to respect your mental space. This isn't about being cold or distant. It is about being intentional. It is about valuing your own mind enough to protect it from the chaos of mindless chatter. It is a simple habit, yet it is one that most people are far too reactive and too insecure to ever master. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. Plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The Silent Power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple. Will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. The second habit that separates the observer from the victim is the discipline of emotional non-attachment. Most people are emotional weather vanes. They are constantly spinning in the direction of whatever wind blows their way. If someone treats them well, they are ecstatic. If someone ignores them, they are devastated. Their entire internal landscape is dictated by external events. This is why they are never truly magnetic, because they are always needy. When you are needy, you are repellent. People instinctively pull away from those who require them to provide emotional regulation. To be drawn to someone, others need to feel that you are a solid foundation. Non-attachment does not mean you are cold, heartless, or incapable of love. It means you understand that your peace of mind is an internal asset that cannot be held hostage by anyone else. It is the practice of observing your emotions without being consumed by them. When you feel a surge of anger, anxiety, or even excessive excitement, you don't let it take the steering wheel of your life. You acknowledge it, you name it, and you choose how to respond to it. Think about the people you admire most. Are they the ones who throw tantrums, constantly complain, or seek reassurance every time a minor inconvenience occurs? Of course not. You are drawn to people who maintain a steady baseline. When a crisis happens, they are the ones who stay calm. When they face a setback, they don't collapse. They treat life as a series of lessons, not a series of personal attacks. This is the Stoic core of amor fati, loving one's fate. Whatever happens, you accept it, you process it, and you move forward. When you practice non-attachment, you stop taking everything personally. You stop assuming that the world is conspiring against you. If a friend doesn't text back immediately, you don't spiral into a narrative that you are being abandoned. If your project faces criticism, you don't crumble as if your entire identity is under attack. You realize that other people's behaviors are a reflection of their internal state, not yours. By refusing to attach your self-worth to external outcomes, you become an incredibly stabilizing presence. This habit creates a magnetic void. Because you are not desperately grabbing at people for validation or emotional support, you have space to actually listen, observe, and connect. People feel safe around you because they know you aren't going to explode, break down, or demand they carry your emotional baggage. You become a rare island of calm in a sea of emotional chaos. That is why they feel drawn to you. They are looking for the very thing you have mastered, a mind that is at peace regardless of what the world throws at it. You are not just another person they have to manage, you are a person who can manage themselves. That is true, undeniable power. And remember, this isn't learned in a day. It is a muscle that must be built, sharpened, and applied until it becomes your new nature. The third habit that makes people feel instantly drawn to you is the mastery of selective giving. In our modern culture, we are conditioned to believe that to be liked, we must be available. We must be the person who says yes to every request, who is always the first to offer help, and who constantly gives away their time, resources, and emotional bandwidth. We do this because we are afraid. We are afraid that if we set boundaries, people will reject us. We are afraid that if we aren't useful to others, we have no value. This is a profound error in judgment. When you give everything to everyone, you devalue yourself. You become a commodity, common, expected, and ultimately ignorable. The Stoic approach to generosity is rooted in discernment. It is not about being stingy, it is about being intentional. A person of high value understands that their most precious resource is not money or material goods. It is their focus and their energy. When you give these away indiscriminately, you are essentially telling the world that your mission, your discipline, and your growth are secondary to the needs of anyone who happens to cross your path. This is not kindness. It is a lack of self-respect. People are not drawn to those who are easily manipulated into being at their service. They are drawn to those who have a clear sense of purpose. When you practice selective giving, your presence becomes a gift rather than a public utility. When you decide to help someone, it is a deliberate choice done with full presence and intention. Because you don't say yes to everything, your yes actually carries weight. People begin to realize that when you are there for them, it is because you chose to be, not because you couldn't say no. This shift is subtle but psychological, and it creates a magnetic effect. You are no longer the person who is just there. You are the person who matters. Furthermore, selective giving protects your own internal state. Many people suffer from chronic burnout, not because they are weak, but because they are leaking their energy into situations that drain them without providing any return in value or growth. They are living in other people's narratives instead of their own. When you pull back, when you decide that your peace of mind and your personal projects are your primary responsibility, you regain control. You start to show up as a person who is whole. And there is nothing more attractive to a broken or chaotic world than someone who is clearly and unapologetically whole. Stop trying to buy people's affection with your availability. It doesn't work. The people who truly admire you are the ones who respect your time and your boundaries. By being selective with your energy, you signal to the world that you are a person of substance, a person who understands the true cost of their own life. You will find that those who only wanted to use you will drift away, while those who truly matter, those who share your values and respect your journey, will be drawn closer. You are not meant to carry everyone. You are meant to walk your own path with integrity. When you master the art of selective giving, you stop being a servant to the crowd and start being the architect of your own character. The fourth habit is what I call the silence of the architect. Most people treat their lives like a public performance. The moment they have an idea, a new business venture, a fitness goal, a change in lifestyle, they feel an almost uncontrollable urge to announce it. They post it on social media, they tell their friends, they broadcast their intentions to anyone who will listen. They do this because they are seeking external validation to make their goal feel real. They want applause before they have even started the work. This is a fatal mistake. When you announce your goals, you get a hit of dopamine that tricks your brain into thinking you have already achieved them. You've tasted the reward without doing the labor, and consequently, your drive to actually execute the task plummets. Stoicism teaches us that a man's character is built in the dark, in the quiet, and in the consistent application of effort that no one sees. The architect does not invite the world into the construction site to watch him lay every single brick. He builds the foundation in silence. He drafts the plans in private. He knows that external opinions, whether praise or criticism, are merely noise that distracts from the blueprint. When you keep your projects to yourself, you preserve the internal fire. You don't have to defend your progress to people who don't understand your vision, and you don't have to worry about the judgment of those who would rather see you fail. When you stop announcing your moves, you become a person of mystery and substance. People start to notice that you are changing, but they don't know why. They see the results of your discipline, not the process. This creates a natural magnetic pull. Because you aren't broadcasting your life, people are forced to pay attention to your actions. When you finally reveal what you have been building, when the building is finished and standing tall, you don't need to explain anything. The results speak for themselves. This is the difference between a person who talks about being great and a person who is simply, undeniably, effective. Furthermore, silence protects you from the energy vampires who love to pour cold water on your ambitions. There are people in your life who, consciously or unconsciously, are threatened by your growth. If you tell them your plans, they will offer advice that is actually just a projection of their own insecurities. By keeping your intentions silent, you shield your motivation from their negativity. You build a protective perimeter around your dreams. You are the only one who needs to know the plan. You are the architect, the builder, and the judge of your own work. This habit is about shifting your locus of control from external approval to internal execution. You are no longer asking for permission or validation. You are reporting for duty to yourself. When you adopt this silence, you will feel a shift in your own self-worth. You will realize that you don't need to be cheered on to do what is right or to build what is necessary. You are doing it because it is your path, and that is enough. That kind of quiet, self-contained confidence is intoxicating. It draws people to you because they see in you a level of security they are desperately trying to find in the validation of others. You are not a performer. You are a powerhouse. The fifth habit that instantly commands respect is the total unyielding discipline of radical responsibility. Most people go through life like a pinball, bouncing off external circumstances and blaming the obstacles for their lack of progress. They blame the economy, they blame their upbringing, they blame their boss, they blame the system. By doing this, they are effectively handing their power over to these external forces. If your life is being dictated by things you cannot control, you are a slave to those things. You are not the protagonist of your own story, you are a victim of someone else's script. The Stoic perspective is fundamentally different. It is the practice of radical responsibility. This means accepting that while you cannot control what happens to you, you have absolute 100% control over your response to it. When something goes wrong, and it will, the person who is drawn to themselves asks one question: what is the part of this that is mine to handle? They don't waste a single second on excuses. They don't look for someone to blame. They look for the action they can take right now to mitigate the damage, learn the lesson, or improve the situation. This habit is magnetic because it is incredibly rare. When you meet someone who doesn't complain, who doesn't shift the blame, and who owns their failures as much as their successes, you are witnessing a level of human maturity that is almost extinct. It creates a sense of safety for those around you. They know that when things get tough, you won't fall apart or look for a scapegoat. You are the person who remains standing. This presence is a beacon for others because most people are terrified of responsibility. When they see you embracing it with a calm, steady hand, they are naturally drawn to you because they crave that same sense of stability. Radical responsibility also kills the ego. When you stop trying to protect your image by blaming others, your ego stops being a wall that separates you from the truth. You become coachable. You become growth-oriented. You stop viewing mistakes as a personal indictment and start viewing them as data. You refine your methods, you tighten your focus, and you become more effective with every passing day. People are repelled by those who are constantly making their case for why they failed. It reeks of insecurity. Conversely, people are drawn to those who say, "This happened, and here is how I am going to fix it." It is the language of a leader, and it is the language of a person who has mastered their own mind. By taking responsibility for your energy, your words, and your reactions, you are telling the world that you are not a passenger in your own life. You are the captain. And make no mistake, the world will always clear a path for the person who knows exactly where they are going. Don't wait for someone else to grant you authority. You claim it the moment you stop blaming the world and start owning your piece of the puzzle. It is the ultimate act of self-sovereignty. Topic 6. the discipline of observer consciousness. The sixth habit is the development of observer consciousness. Most people are so deeply identified with their thoughts and feelings that they become them. If they have a thought of failure, they believe they are a failure. If they feel a spike of anxiety, they believe they are an anxious person. They are essentially living inside the movie of their own lives, completely absorbed by the drama, the plot twists, and the emotional turbulence. They cannot see the screen, the projector, or the theater. They are just the characters trapped on the screen. Stoicism offers a way out of this trap. It teaches you to step back and become the observer. Imagine you are sitting in a theater, watching your own life unfold on the screen. When a difficult emotion arises, frustration, jealousy, or fear, you don't jump into the movie to fight it. You stay in the seat. You watch the emotion arrive, you watch it play out, and you watch it leave. You recognize that you are the witness of the emotion, not the emotion itself. This simple, tiny habit is profoundly transformative. When you are the observer, you cannot be hijacked. You are the immovable center, and the chaos is just passing scenery. People are deeply drawn to those who possess this kind of self-awareness. Why? Because most people feel like they are drowning in their own thoughts. They feel controlled by their moods. When they meet someone who can say, "I am feeling frustrated right now, but I am choosing to stay calm," they are witnessing a form of psychological freedom they didn't know was possible. By observing your own reactions, you create a buffer zone. You stop being a reflex machine and start being a conscious participant. This practice also allows you to dismantle the false narratives you've been telling yourself for years. How many times have you told yourself you aren't good enough, or that you aren't capable, or that people are out to get you? When you practice observer consciousness, you start to see these thoughts as what they are: mental noise, or at best, outdated software. You can look at a negative thought and say, "That is an interesting thought," but it isn't true. You strip the power away from your insecurities. When you consistently observe yourself, you become highly objective. You can analyze your behavior in social situations, in business, or in your relationships with the cold, clear eye of a scientist. You see where you are weak, where you are reactive, and where you are losing your power. And because you are observing, you can course correct. You don't have to beat yourself up for making a mistake. You just observe the mistake as data for your next attempt. This is how you cultivate an unshakable, high-value presence. People gravitate toward you because you are a person who is in the game, but not of the game. You aren't playing for emotional approval, you are playing for mastery. And in a world where everyone else is lost in their own head, the person who can see clearly is a force of nature. Topic 7. The ultimate shift from reactive to sovereign. The seventh and final habit is the deliberate transition from being a reactive creature to a sovereign individual. Most people exist in a state of emotional slavery. They are tethered to the opinions of others, the trends of the culture, and the fluctuations of their own moods. They are like a boat without an anchor, drifting wherever the current takes them. They look for external validation to tell them who they are, how they are doing, and what they should value. When the world praises them, they are up. When the world ignores or criticizes them, they are down. And this is not a life. It is a cycle of dependence. True sovereignty, as the Stoics understood, is the realization that your internal citadel is yours alone. You are the only person who has the keys to your peace of mind. When you stop looking outside for your worth, you stop being a slave to external circumstances. You stop needing someone to tell you that you are enough. You stop needing the crowd to applaud your decisions. You start to derive your sense of self from your own actions, your own discipline, and your own alignment with your values. This shift is the ultimate magnet. When you no longer need anything from anyone, you become the most powerful person in the room. People are instinctively drawn to those who possess this inner sovereignty. It is rare, it is stable, and it is peaceful. When you are truly sovereign, you don't compete with others because you are busy perfecting yourself. You don't get jealous of someone else's success because you are focused on your own path. You don't fear rejection because you have already accepted yourself. This creates an aura of quiet confidence that words cannot replicate. It is a presence that says, I am here, I am focused, and I am in control of my own destiny. This is the life you were meant to lead. It is not about avoiding the world, but about engaging with it on your own terms. You remain an observer, a master of your own emotions, and a person who gives selectively and acts with precision. You carry your own gravity. You no longer need to chase people because you have become the center of your own universe. And the irony, which I have seen play out time and time again, is that once you stop chasing the things you once desperately wanted, respect, influence, and genuine connection begin to chase you. This is the path of the awakened man. It is the path of the Stoic. It is not easy, and it requires constant vigilance, but it is the only way to live a life of true substance. You have the potential to be this person, but potential is useless without action. You must choose today to close the gap between who you are and who you know you can be. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. +5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today.